Thank you for visiting the K-5 Boundary Realignment presentation. Funding for this project has made possible by our community, specifically through the 2009 bond election. In this presentation, I will give you a brief overview of the site and our logic to the two possible recommendations. The first slide is our educational center. On the left-hand side, you can see an aerial photograph of the site, while the right-hand side shows our architectural rendering. The aerial photograph has two roads, one in red and one in blue. The red road represents the through street and also the road that will bring students to the new school via our buses. The blue road represents the road that will need to stop at a stop sign while crossing the red road. On the right-hand side, you can see the Early Childhood Center on the furthest north of the screen. In the middle is the new K-5 school, and on the southern end represents the pool and faculty parking lot. The next slide represents the 3D rendering showing those exact things. On the left-hand side, or the north side, would be the Early Childhood Center, represented by the K-5 school in the center of the screen, which is two-story. And on the right-hand side, or southern end, is the pool and gym facility with faculty parking in the back. The next slide shows our current configuration or tracks. The left-hand side shows the main campus, while the right-hand side shows all the students not on the main campus. It is very important to understand this screen as we went through our logic. Knowing that the new K-5 school represented in red will feed into ANZA. This is due to both of our high schools being the same size. We need to make sure that both middle schools feed into the high schools at the same rate. ANZA Trail School currently produces 130 students into Walden Grove every year, while the current middle school produces about 220 students. So the two things that are important to understand about this slide is, one, we will have to make space at ANZA for more students, knowing that there is no capacity, and also knowing that we need more students from the left track into the right track is notable. The next slide, the current boundaries, represents the current boundaries within our district. The left-hand side represents the district boundaries, where the purple and blue represent the main campus, while the right-hand side, the gold and red, represent the off-campus students. On the right-hand side is the Rancho Cerrito school boundaries, where blue represents the main campus, and the southern end of Rancho Cerrito represents ANZA Trail and Walden Grove High School. By Camino, Rancho Tierra represents the split in between those boundaries. Consolidating all that information, there are two things now to keep in mind. We need to open up space at ANZA for middle school students. Thus, some ANZA students need to go to the new K-5 school. So we'll have to look at the ANZA boundaries. The second main point is that we'll have to take main campus students and send them into the ANZA track in order to balance the tracks. So we'll also need to look at main campus boundaries. So let's look at the first bullet point first. Which ANZA students should go? The next slide represents the current boundaries of ANZA Trail School within Rancho Cerrito. Looking within that red line, which students should we focus on? The students within the blue circle are closest to ANZA. Thus, logic dictates that we don't look at students within that blue circle. Thus, looking in the students within that red line, the other area, or the students within the yellow circle, are the most logical ones to analyze. Knowing that we want to keep students together, and knowing that some main students have to go as well, if we expand that yellow circle to include some main campus students as well, would be beneficial. Thus, the next slide represents the one yellow circle and the area within Rancho Cerrito that we're looking at. To be more specific, and analyzing the number of students within each neighborhood, we've come up with a detailed map of the proposed Rancho Cerrito area. The blue area are those students from the main campus that are proposed to go to the new K-5 school, while the neighborhoods or students within the red boundary would be the students from ANZA Trail School that are proposed to go to the new K-5 school. Knowing we don't want this school just to be a Rancho Cerrita school, we now want to look at other areas within our district, specifically from the main campus area, as we've already pulled enough students from ANZA. The next slide represents the rest of our district. So now we need to look at students within this red line. The next slide represents a very densely populated area. If we were to just analyze the students north and south of Walmart, this school would already be populated and not have room for other students. Thus, the next slide represents the two proposed areas. Proposal 1 would be the middle of Rancho Cerrita and the ranches, and Proposal 2 is the middle of Rancho Cerrita and those students off of La Cañada. The northern boundary of La Cañada is El Toro Road, and the southern end of that boundary on La Cañada is Eldora Place. And looking at these new boundaries, it does create different tracks for not just K-5 students. Main campus students would now be in ANZA and Walden Grove High School boundaries. Thus, 6th through 11th grade students must now also switch tracks. Because remind you that we are taking students from that left track and sticking them in the right track. There will be potential open enrollment for 3 groups of students. Currently, we are analyzing open enrollment for next year's 5th grade students at ANZA, next year's 8th grade students at Cerrita Middle School, and 11th grade students at Cerrita High School. This open enrollment may be granted for 1 year, but due to the unavailability of buses, transportation cannot be provided for these open enrollment students. The following timeline represents the community forums that have existed so far. Our committee would like to make a final presentation to the school board in January of 2012. I appreciate you taking the time to watch our slide presentation. We value your opinions and thoughts. Please email any comments that you may have to boundary@cerrita.net. Please note that we do not respond to this email address, but all emails will be read. Thank you very much and have a great day. This last slide was added on November 9th, 2011 and reflects the new potential proposal number 3. The committee's previous philosophy was to ensure that more than one neighborhood was mixed into the new K-5 school. Throughout the public forums and email communications, the theme arose that neighborhood schools are more feasible and potentially more fiscally responsible. Therefore, the following option, labeled Potential Proposal Number 3, has been added. This option expands the yellow circle just within Rancho Cerrita. Thus, the neighborhoods in blue represent the main campus boundary that would now go to the new K-5 school, while the neighborhoods in red represents the ANZA students who would go to the new K-5 school. No other neighborhoods would be added to this proposal, as this area alone fills the capacity of the new K-5 school. Please continue to provide your input for all 3 options at the email address of boundary@cerrita.net. Thanks again for watching this video. Have a good day.